Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Maestro. Today it's the Moto Guzzi Griso, and as always we're going to put this bike through its paces and really show you what it can do on these spectacular roads down here in Southern California. So if you do get a lot out of this content, we just ask that you'd like and subscribe. Enjoy! Welcome to another episode of the Maestro. Today is the road test on the 2017 Moto Guzzi Griso. Let me say a little bit about Moto Guzzi as a whole before I get into this bike. Moto Guzzi probably is my favorite motorcycle company because they're the company that has the most character. They have been in business since 1921. Their factory is on the picturesque idyllic shores of Lago di Como, or Lake Como, in northern Italy, nestled right at the foot of the Swiss Alps in the background and the northern Italy landscape. It's a beautiful lake that extends probably 30 miles or so, dotted with all these pristine little fishing towns that dot along the lake. As you may know, George Clooney actually loves this place as well. He bought a villa there, and we've traveled up there several times, and we kind of are having our cappuccino and talking to the locals, and we tell them we're motorcycle riders from Los Angeles, and they go, "Oh, do you know George Clooney?" And we go, "Well, of course, we ride with George all the time." And they go, "Oh, that's wonderful. Can you introduce him?" I said, "Well, he's a little busy today. Otherwise, he'd be out here with us." So I think that being in this magical place on incredible motorcycles gives us a little license for exaggeration and having a little fun. Now, hopefully that didn't set people off too much, but that's the kind of thing that happens when you're in this incredible landscape. And the factory for Moto Guzzi, it's in this little town along Lake Como called Mandello dell'Ario, and it's this famed factory that they've been building these bikes since 1921, and so over 100 years now. And the Moto Guzzi architecture came out, I think this V-twin came out around 1967, so for almost 60 years now, they've been manufacturing these air-cooled, now they're water-cooled V-twin motorcycles. So a little bit about this particular bike and the niche that the Griso fits in. Is it a sport bike? A little bit. Is it a cruiser? A little bit. Is it just a power bike? A little bit. But where does it fit? So I love funky, cool stuff. I mean, when a few years ago, I had a Porsche Carrera, and then as my fun car, I had a Morgan Plus 8, the old Morgan with the big fenders, all aluminum body, wood frame, and they stuck this Buick V8 in the thing, and it was just a hoot. Nobody knew what it was yet. It was just a lot of fun. And the Moto Guzzi Griso kind of fits into that same category or niche. If you're looking for a vintage vehicle, but don't want to put up with Amel carburetors or Delorto carburetors or just a 50, 60-year-old motorcycle, but you want the character and the feel of an older motorcycle with modern components, real brakes, decent power, excellent handling, then this just might be the ticket for you. The Moto Guzzi, I'm not going to go into all the details. You can see that on a lot of other videos. This is the video where we really ride the bike. It shocks me. There's all these other videos on Moto Guzzis, and they test them down these straight country roads, and they go, "Wow, this is a great bike." I don't mean to demean them, but this is the channel where you can really see these bikes in action and really answer the question, is this a competent motorcycle or not? We got a friend coming through here. Wait 1 second. I've run with this guy. This is a totally stripped out Honda Civic that's like, the motor is totally built and the guy just hauls. The young guy just hauls through here, and I've ridden against him a couple of times. I'll tell you what, he gets it done. Anyway, back to the subject at hand. The Moto Guzzi Griso has 110 horsepower, not a lot. Nice, beautiful mid-range, Marzocchi front forks, and a Sachs rear shock. And one of the things that I've often said, one second, wait for the noise to come through. All right. One of the things that I've always said that's so important is to have your bike set up properly. And it's never been more important, I think, than on a bike like this, because it is 530 pounds. Here come some more guys through here. That's actually my crew, so we'll make them a little bit, get them a little notoriety as we go. We are in motorcycle paradise, I have to say. Beautiful day, incredible road, beautiful mountains surrounding us. Anyway, setting up this bike, because it's 530 pounds, it doesn't have a lot of horsepower, so you really need to be able to have confidence, especially in the front end, carry speed, and just as always, just be smooth as silk as you're navigating these twisty, curvy mountain roads. We're going to do a segment later on when I bring the bike back to the house, when we do a walk around, and I'll give you the suspension settings. It took me a year to find these. I thought the Moto Guzzi was pretty much dialed in, and it was going pretty good, and I liked it a lot. But then I spoke to my buddy Dave Moss, and I've been riding, we used to ride together like 20 years ago. He had his old Triumph. We had the GS's, and Dave took this to the next level and really fine-tuned it. I'm about 200 pounds. I know, I need to lose a little weight. I will work on that this year. But we took this thing so it is just tracks. The only limiting factor, one second again. Nice little KTM getting it done. The only real limiting factor on this bike is ground clearance. And I probably should have taken a video of this, but when I bought this bike, the first thing I did was take it to my old shop, Moto Republic, and the kickstand, when it's up position, has a little foot on it, and I ground half the foot off with a grinder. I just taking a grinder to it, sparks are flying all over the place. And then the stop for the kickstand that limits its travel on the way up, I ground probably a 1/4 inch, maybe probably about a 1/4 inch off of that, so the kickstand goes up a little higher, and that gets that out of the way. Now you'll still see when I do the walk around video, I'm touching the kickstand down. The little leg that comes off the kickstand that allows your foot to move it up and down is slowly grinding away, and I know at some point it'll come flying off, and I'll have to talk to my friends at Pro Italia and order another leg for the kickstand, which will probably cost me 50 bucks, but that's the price of doing business. One of the things about the Guzzi that we first learned, I almost bought, believe it or not, a Moto Guzzi dealership. There's a Aprilia and Moto Guzzi in San Jose. This is going back 20 years now. And there was a salesman there named Derek, and he was an AFM racer, very competent guy. And one day he took, and it was a 2-valve. So the first generation of the Griso, I think from 2006 through 2008, were the 2-valve version of this motor, putting out like 90 horsepower or so. This one, as I mentioned, puts out about 110. It's the 4-valve version, which came out in 2009. This is a 2017, which is the last year of the Griso and the last year of the 1200s. Here's another array of guys enjoying their morning on this incredible road. So we went up in the mountains around the Santa Cruz Mountains up there, and we had our GS's, and we were going down this road, and it's this tight, technical, steep, little bit bumpy road called Bear Creek Road, taking it from the top, coming down into like Los Gatos, California. And we used to haul the mail on these GSs with the telelever and the 19-inch front wheel going through the bumps. We were just going downhill. And my buddy Derek took a shop Griso, the 2-valve version, out with us at the time. And we were all blown away because he stayed with us going down this Bear Creek Road in San Jose. And we said, wow, I couldn't have imagined that the Griso could have done something like that. And so it really got my attention at the time. And now that I've got this one, I understand exactly how he's done it. Now, with the 4-valve version that came out in 2009, we upgraded to 110 horsepower. So not a huge amount of horsepower. We lost a smidgen of the low-end grunt that the 2-valve had, but we more than make up for it as we get through the top end of this thing. So as I think I mentioned, I bought this bike about 2.5 years ago. It had 1,900 miles on it when I got it. The former owner did some really cool stuff with it. He put this Pugue, more sporty, a little bit lower bar on it, just a smidge lower than stock. These nice sporty mirrors. He upgraded the master cylinder. The brakes on this are really good. I don't know how the stock ones are. I'm sure they're pretty good. These are very, very good. And he put levers on it, and he had the stock exhaust on it, but he went to a place in Orange County in California called Guzzi Tech, and they are the experts on the more modern Guzzis. And he bought a tune, a Guzzi Tech tune for the bike. And I've seen a lot of other reviews where they say there's a flat spot, I think around 3,000 RPM. Well, I have the Guzzi Tech exhaust on this along with the Guzzi Tech tune, and I'll tell you, this thing fuels beautifully from 2,000 all the way up to, I don't know, 8,000 RPM, which is the red line on this, and it just pulls really sweetly from 3 to 8, and it's just an incredible motor. Now, the Guzzi Tech exhaust is perfect for this bike. This is not a fast and loud bike. This is a refined gentleman's express, if you will, a gentleman's sport bike. And the Guzzi Tech exhaust takes away probably the old exhaust with the big twin barrel exhaust, probably weighed 25, 30 pounds at least. This is like 5 to 7 pounds. And so it takes off about 25 pounds of weight. It's a medium sound. It's not too loud, but it is still throaty. It's a great sound for this particular bike. And so I use this bike for just having a beautiful time in the canyons. If I'm not really ripping, then I take the Tuono, but just, it'll get it done. And you're gonna see in the videos that I think you're gonna be surprised on how well this bike handles, how smooth it is, and how much pace you can actually carry on this bike and set up like it is. So without further ado, I guess, let's take it out on the road and we'll demonstrate exactly some nice vintage Porsches there. They sound so great. That air-cooled flat 6. And here comes a Miata getting it. Yeah. Anyway, let's take it out on the road, and I think we're going to demonstrate just how effective a tool this Moto Guzzi Griso is. So the niche is, if you're looking for a vintage bike but don't want to put up with all the aggravation of a 50-year-old bike, and you still want the visceral effects of a motorcycle from the old school but upgraded with modern components, this could be it. So let's take it out and see how it goes. let's wrap it up with the walk around and the suspension settings. As I mentioned in the first part of the video, on any motorcycle, maybe especially a Griso, but on any motorcycle, get it dialed in by a professional. And I use Dave Moss. As I mentioned, I've known him for 20 years. He is the go-to guy. He will also give you, he's done like, I think he says 3,500 motorcycles a year, and he's been doing this for 20 or more years. So I don't know, do the math. It's a lot of suspension settings that Dave has done, and he has the experience. He can just listen to what you're telling the bikers do and give you a suggestion. So on his website, you can just go, and you don't have to even be there in person. He has so much data that he can say, okay, what's your bike? What's your weight? Here's a good baseline. Then you can ride the bike and then come back to him and say, okay, I got your baseline. Here's what it needs. And then he'll go, his famous line is 2 clicks, because he'll just do 2 clicks of rebound or 2 clicks of compression and say, just ride it there. So the rule of thumb when you're doing your suspension is, after you get your baseline, you don't want to make more than 1 change at a time, and you want to make a minor change going in the direction that you think you should go. Ride the bike, see if it helps or not. If it helps, maybe do 2 more clicks of the same thing. If it didn't help or didn't make a difference, then you can easily go back to where you were and try something else. So here are the settings for Dave Moss. Now, when I first got this bike, I did my own setting. It was really good. I got very close to where it was, and I really liked the bike. I have to be honest though, I didn't love the bike like I do now. It really makes a huge difference. So in the earlier videos that I've already posted for about a year, you see that I'm getting it done pretty well on this bike, but I'll tell you what, now it is much better than it was before, and thanks to Dave Moss for that. So here's the settings. Now, I'm 200 pounds. I know, I gotta lose 20, but anywhere from, if you're like 190 to 210, these settings will be pretty good for you. If you're a little on the heavier side, take a turn of preload out on the front and the rear, and it should be pretty close. Okay, so for the front forks, the rebound, which are these 2 screws at the top, are 3/4 of a turn from full hard. So go to full hard and then go back a half a turn and then a 1/4 turn, and then you should be in good shape. Compression is at the bottom of the forks, another screw, flathead screwdriver, and that is all the way on full. I have full compression on this. So just under full compression on rebound, full compression on compression. And what Dave did, and what I undid, because I put more preload in than I had compression, he said back the preload out. So I have 6 rings showing a preload here on the front. So less preload, more compression, more rebound that I had. So it's kind of like this balance, and Dave went more to that, and it really made a huge difference. Okay, in the back, preload on the rear shock, 17 rings are showing above the collar, which is a little more than I had as well. And then rebound is 3/4 of a turn from full on hard, and compression is a half a turn from full on hard. So that's the kind of the setup that I think will work for most of you folks. And it really made a huge difference in the way this bike handles. So what we were talking about initially is that the Griso, the Moto Guzzi Griso, is a great bike if you want a traditional motorcycle that still has the oral sense. One of the things that we talked about earlier in the video is the Moto Guzzi Griso is a motorcycle that still retains the character and the sensation of kind of an older school motorcycle, but with modern components, brakes, suspension, chassis, all these things. Geometry is right up to date with the most modern machines, but at the same time, it still retains the character of a classic motorcycle, and it also retains the look of a classic motorcycle as well. So many motorcycles today are so good, they're so refined that they've become sanitized. They're appliances. They work really, really well, but they've lost that feel that you know, we're criticized by the Harley riders a lot of time because it doesn't have the sensation of a motorcycle. A Harley Davidson is a real old school motorcycle where you get the sensations. It just doesn't, as we joke with the Harley guys, it's just a great motorcycle. It just doesn't go, stop, or turn. Other than that, it's fantastic, right? Well, the Moto Guzzi is a motorcycle that retains the character that you find in your typical Harley Davidson, but as you've seen in the videos already, I think, it still goes, stops, and turns pretty well. So let's start it up and I'll see if I can show you what we're talking about. Also, it'll give you a chance to look at and experience the Guzzi Tech slip-on exhaust, which I think looks just so clean on this motorcycle. And I think the sound is just perfect. It's loud enough to get your attention, but it's not overly loud or obnoxious. So here we go. Starting it up, and you're gonna see the motorcycle is gonna vibrate a little bit. It's gonna rock to the right when I roll on the gas a little bit, and it's gonna just have that sensation of you're on this machine that's been made by motorcycle guys who have been doing this for literally 100 years. Start it up. You can see the levers kind of moving a little bit here. And I don't know if you can see it on the video, but when I just roll on the gas, it wants to go to the right a little bit. You don't really notice it, you get used to it, and when you're out on the road and rolling on, going through corners, it's virtually non-existent. Sounds pretty good, doesn't it? Anyway, as I mentioned, the former owner put the Guzzi Tech tune on this. I put the slip-on on it. It fuels great from 2,000 all the way up to 8,000. There's no hiccups, there's no flat spots. It's just really just smooth, and you can just cruise in it. As a matter of fact, you can, I take my wife out on this and we go for either these cool little lunch spots in Hollywood or LA, or out to dinner. We go to get pizza in this. We went last week to this little place in Hollywood, a little tiny place, but it had these like glowing reviews. It was called Oui, like the French oui, like yes. And it was a little sandwich shop. She got this falafel that was unbelievable, and I just got this French Gruyere cheese and ham sandwich with the Dijon mustard. It was really good. But to comment on the Guzzi, we parked it right out front, and I'll tell you, during that, whatever it was, half hour, 45 minutes that we were there, just hanging out, enjoying our sandwich, at least 3 people came in and said, wow, that is one cool motorcycle, what is it? And as we were going to leave, I'm going to get on the Guzzi, and we're putting our helmet and our gloves on, and there's this guy just standing there, and he's looking at the bike just like this, not saying a thing. And I'm like, how you doing? He goes, that thing is beautiful. And it is. So if you don't like people, don't get a Moto Guzzi Griso, because they're going to want to talk to you and engage in conversation. And so go get a Honda or something, or whatever else you want to get. Not to put down Hondas, we love Hondas, but it's not certainly going to engage in the kind of conversations that this will engage in. Speaking of conversations, there is a website that I highly recommend that are Griso nuts. And the name of the website is Griso Ghetto. And it's all Griso owners, and they talk about if you got an issue or a problem, there's a forum that you can put in. You can just share stories, share videos, share just different kind of stuff on there. And Can put the link to it on the video as we go on. So I think that's it. As you can tell, I love this bike. I want to keep it for a long time. I now have a little over 10,000 miles on it. It has been completely and utterly reliable. All I've done was change the oil, and I think I changed the brake pads once. But other than that, it's been a fantastic motorcycle. And as always, we would greatly appreciate it if you would do us the solid by liking and subscribing. And we're gonna really start to bring you a lot of content on Instagram and other social media posts, which we will put the links to at the end of this video as well. So have a great ride, guys, and hope to see you up there on the mountain.